mark is what this part is equal to. So let's start with our whole. Our whole is equal to 9 plus 11. What's that fancy math word for when we're adding? A sum. I would call this the sum of 9 and 11. Let's write that down. The sum of 9 and 11. I'm kind of cheating by not writing the words 9 and 11, but you get it. And notice that sum, when we're talking about math, is S-U-M. So I've got the sum of 9 and 11. And I'm dividing it up into some units. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. That tells me they must be called fourths. But how many fourths do I want to know here? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's just these 3 fourths of the total amount that I'm trying to figure out. So we could call this diagram, I'm going to write it up here, 3 fourths of the sum of 9 and 11. Can we change that into numbers? Sure. 3 fourths. And we know now that of means times or multiply the sum of 9 and 11. I'm going to do something really important here. I'm going to put in parentheses around my 9 plus 11 to show that the sum is the thing that I'm finding 3 fourths of. If I didn't have the parentheses here, it would mean something a little bit different. It would mean 3 fourths of 9 plus 11. And I'm not going to go through it, but if you actually went and did this and multiplied 3 fourths times 9, got an answer to that, and then added 11, you would get a different answer than if you took the sum of 9 and 11 and multiplied times 3 fourths. And that's what this diagram is asking for. 3 fourths of this sum. So you have to do this first, and that's what the parentheses tell you. Now this problem also wants us to evaluate. That just means to solve it. Just do the problem. Now be careful, because you might have an assignment, or a test even, where it will just tell you to, say, convert a diagram to an expression. And it won't actually tell you to solve it, so don't bother. But in this case, it does say to evaluate, to go ahead and figure it out. The part in parentheses we do first. 9 plus 11 equals, yep, 20. So I'm looking for 3 fourths times 20. Pop 20 over 1, multiply across. Some of you know how to do this the quicker way, and if you can, that's great. I'm just going to do it this way for now. I get 60 fourths. I know that means divide. I divide 60 by 4. And I get a nice even 15. So 3 fourths of the sum of 9 and 11 is 15. Great. Sing some erasing music to yourself here while I erase. Erase, 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 erase. Now that time we dealt with sums, but a really important word you're going to hear a lot in word problems is the difference between something and something. And when you hear difference, I want you to think subtraction. Think of it this way. If I had a tower that's, right, maybe my tower is 10 feet tall, and I've got another tower that's 12 feet tall. They're not the same. What's the difference between them? It's this space here. The difference between the 10-footer and the 12-footer has got to have to be 2 feet. That's, 12 minus 10. If you hear difference, think subtraction. And here's a quick example. Let's say we saw a diagram that looked like this. You just draw it. And unlike our other diagram, our first one where we knew what the whole thing was, here we don't know. That's what we're trying to find out. But what we do know is what each of these boxes is, and it's 1/3 minus 1/4. In math words, we would say that this is the difference between 1/3 and 1/4. Okay? The difference of 1/3 and 1/4. We can write that out. The difference of 1/3 and 1/4. And I'm kind of cheating here. I really should write 1/3 and 1/4, but I was running out of space. So this section here is the difference between 1/3 and 1/4. But what I'm trying to figure out is what the whole thing is. Well, how many times does this section repeat? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this quantity here, this unknown thing, is the difference of 1/3 and 1/4 times 5. It's repeating. 5 times the difference of 1/3 and 1/4. Now let's get this into just numbers. 5, easy, times, easy, the difference of 1/3 and 1/4. And this is where our friends, the parentheses, come in again. Okay. This shows us that this is one unit that we're figuring out first. Figure out this chunk of the problem. Then multiply by 5. Okay. I'm going to let you guys, if you're watching this video at home and you want to pause it and see if you can figure it out, we'd have to find a like unit here, do the subtraction, do the multiplication. I'm not going to show it now because we need to move on. All right, the next one is I'm going to give you just some words. And I want you on your paper, in your math notebook, or whatever, to see if you can change these words into just numbers and symbols. I'll write the words and I'll say them so you can hear them. Heck, running out of room here, but I'll show you. Let's read together. The product of 4 and 2 divided by 3. And that comma is even going to help us out a little bit. So I included that. So let's start with product. Who can remember what product means? What kind of math do we think of when we hear product? If you said multiplication, you're right. Factor times factor equals product. So our factors are 4 and 2. And if we multiply those, that's the product. So let's write that. 4 times 2. We know that we want this product to be sort of a unit, a chunk of the problem. So I'm going to put parentheses around it. The product of 4 and 2 divided by 3. Okay, so I could write it divided by 3, or 4 times 2 divided by 3. Okay, same thing. Shall we go ahead and evaluate this? Sure. What's 4 times 2? 8. And it's divided by 3. I can actually go ahead and do that division, so I get a mixed number. And I end up with 2, see, 2, and 2 divided by 3. We call that 2/3. So the product of 4 and 2 divided by 3 is 2 and 2/3. Let's see if we can change this up a little bit and tackle